There's a certain kind of person who will never tell you they like you the way everyone else does. No nervous compliments, no obvious flirting, no grand declarations. Instead, they do something stranger. They start rearranging their entire life around you, quietly, precisely, and they assume you'll notice. Most people read that silence as disinterest. They wait for the words that never come, and they walk away convinced there was nothing there. But with an INTJ, that conclusion is almost always wrong. Because when an INTJ likes you, it doesn't look like attraction, it looks like access. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to read the 13 signals they're already sending, the ones hiding in plain sight, so you never again mistake their silence for indifference. The INTJ. Introverted, intuitive, thinking, judging. They make up less than 2% of the population, and they are famously difficult to read. Carl Jung, whose work on cognitive functions built the foundation this type stands on, described the introverted, intuitive as someone who lives primarily in an inner world of patterns and possibilities. That inner world is where the INTJ actually lives. The surface you see is just the doorway. Here's what makes them so easy to misjudge. The INTJ treats emotion as data to be handled privately, not performed publicly. So the very moment they feel the most, they often show the least. Their affection doesn't get louder. It goes underground and it changes shape into behavior. This is why the usual signals don't apply. You can wait forever for the blush, the stammer, the obvious chase, and it will never come. Not because it isn't there, but because it's being expressed in a completely different language. We're going to walk through 13 of those behaviors, and they escalate. The early ones are subtle, easy to miss. The last few will tell you everything. Let's start with the one almost everyone overlooks. Sign 1. They give you their time, and time is the one thing they never waste. The INTJ guards their schedule like a fortress. Every hour is allocated, every interruption resented, every wasted afternoon quietly mourned. So when they start clearing space for you, willingly, repeatedly, without being asked, understand what that cost them. Psychologists who study introversion, following the work of Susan Cain, note that introverts spend energy in social contact and recover it in solitude. Time with people is withdrawn from a limited account. For an INTJ to choose you over that recovery, again and again, is not a small thing. It's the most honest budget they keep, and you're now a permanent line item in it. Sign 2. They remember the small things you forgot you said. Mention offhand that you hate cilantro, or that your sister's surgery is on Thursday, and weeks later they'll reference it exactly. This isn't a party trick. The INTJ's dominant function is a pattern recognition engine that files everything, and they only run it at full power on things that matter to them. Most people they meet get filed under general noise. You don't. When they remember your details, they're telling you that you've been promoted to something worth tracking, and that a corner of that relentless mind is now permanently assigned to you. Sign 3. They start explaining things to you. The real things. An INTJ walks around with an enormous internal library of theories, frameworks, and half-finished ideas they almost never share, because most people don't want the long version. So when they start giving you the long version, unprompted, they're not lecturing, they're opening the door to the inner world Jung described. Being invited inside an INTJ's mind is not a lecture you have to endure. It's intimacy in the only language they fully trust. Sign 4. They try to solve your problems. Tell an INTJ you're struggling with something, and they won't say, that sounds hard. They'll say, here's what I do. This frustrates people who wanted comfort, but you're misreading the gesture. For the INTJ, competence is care. Gary Chapman's framework of love languages calls this acts of service, and for a thinking type, it runs deeper than a chore. Solving your problem is how they say, I've been thinking about your life when you weren't in the room. Sign 5. They become strangely, almost annoyingly reliable. If an INTJ says they'll be there at 7, they're there at 6:58. They do the thing they said they'd do, every time, without reminders. In a world where most people treat their word as a rough estimate, the INTJ treats it as a contract. Notice, too, that they don't do this for everyone. With people they've written off, an INTJ can be distant, forgetful, even cold. The consistency is targeted. They only sign that contract with people they've decided are worth it. So their reliability isn't a personality quirk. It's a quiet, standing promise, renewed every single time they show up exactly when they said they would. Sign 6. They let you see them without the armor. In public, the INTJ is composed, controlled, unbothered. But start to matter to them, and something slips. They'll admit a doubt, confess something they got wrong, let you see the tired, uncertain version they hide from everyone else. Attachment researchers building on the work of John Bowlby describe this as the moment a guarded person tests whether closeness is safe. When an INTJ lowers the armor around you, they're running that test, and they've decided you might pass. Sign 7. They put you in their plans. The INTJ lives in the future. Their mind is a map of where everything is heading, and it usually has room for exactly one person, them. So the day they casually say, we should do that next year, or when we move, listen closely. They don't say those things loosely. If you've appeared in their long-range map of the future, it's because part of them has already decided they want you there. If you've made it this far, and you're still doing the math on someone specific in your life, that tells me something about you. You're not looking for the easy read. You're trying to actually understand a person most people give up on. That's exactly who this channel is for. If that's you, hit subscribe. We break down the real psychology behind how people think, feel, and connect every single week in a way that finally makes sense. Now let's get to the signs that are harder to hide. Sign 8. They defend their alone time, except with you. Normally, being around people drains an INTJ, and they'll invent excuses to escape back into solitude. But watch what happens with someone they like. The clock stops mattering. They don't reach for the exit. Elaine Aron's research on the highly sensitive introvert helps explain it. Your presence stops registering as a demand on their energy and starts registering as rest. When your company feels like solitude to an INTJ, that is a profound and rare thing. Sign 9. They tease you, and they only tease people they trust. The INTJ's humor is dry, sharp, and delivered with a completely straight face. To a stranger, they're all business, careful, and correct. But when they start needling you, poking gentle holes in your logic with a barely hidden smirk, that's not hostility, that's play. Psychologists who study humor find that gentle teasing between people is a bonding behavior, a way to signal closeness while keeping the stakes low. For a reserve type who finds direct sentiment excruciating, it's perfect. Teasing is how they create intimacy without ever having to say anything vulnerable out loud. If an INTJ jokes with you, you're inside the circle. Sign 10. They quietly close the physical distance. INTJs are not natural touchers, and they keep a wide buffer of personal space around them, so the small things are enormous. Sitting a little closer than they need to. Lingering a beat too long when they hand you something. These aren't accidents. For a person, this deliberate proximity is never random. Their body is doing the thing their words find so difficult, moving toward you on purpose. Sign 11. They tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. An INTJ will not flatter you. If you ask their opinion, you'll get the honest one, delivered without cushioning. Most people flee that kind of honesty and mistake it for coldness. But here's what you're missing. The INTJ hands out polite, comfortable half-truths to people they don't care about because it's easier and it keeps them at a distance. Telling you the hard thing is the opposite of distance. It's a sign of respect. They believe you're strong enough to handle reality, they trust you to hear it and stay, and they refuse to insult you with anything less than the truth. Sign 12. They study the things you love. An INTJ falling for you will quietly go research your world. The band you mentioned once. The field you work in. The book that changed your life at 19. They won't announce it, and they certainly won't do it to impress you. But suddenly they're asking a question so specific, so informed, that it's obvious they've done homework you never assigned. Csikszentmihalyi described flow as the state of deep absorption we give only to what we find genuinely meaningful. An INTJ does not spend that kind of focus lightly. So when they pour into understanding your interests, understand what has happened, you have quietly become the subject they most want to master. Sign 13. And this is the one that changes everything. When an INTJ finally decides you're worth it, they tell you, directly. No games, no hints, no waiting for the perfect moment. Because underneath all that analysis is a person who despises inefficiency, and pining in silence is the most inefficient thing there is. When they're sure, they'll look you in the eye and simply say it. And when that moment comes, believe them completely, because an INTJ does not say a word about their feelings until they've already checked it 100 times in private. So the next time an INTJ in your life goes quiet and gives you their time and remembers the small things and tells you the truth no one else would, understand what you're actually watching. You're not watching someone who feels nothing. You're watching someone who feels so much they've had to build a private system just to hold it. Someone whose love doesn't arrive as noise, but as attention, precision, and access to a world they show almost no one. The INTJ won't chase you the way others do. They'll do something rarer. They'll choose you deliberately, completely, and then quietly rebuild their life to make room for you in it. And the people who learn to read that language get something most people never will: the loyalty of someone who does not give it lightly. If you want to understand this mind even more deeply, I made a video on the inner world of the INTJ that I think will hit just as hard. It's right here when you're ready.